Hello everybody, welcome to Beyond the Pitch. I'm Kristian Jack. This week we're on location and actually literally beyond the pitch here in Hamilton, Ontario inside Tim Hortons Field. Behind me you may notice Forge FC are training and getting ready for what they hope is a three-peat this Sunday as they take on Pacific here in the Canadian Premier League 2021 final. They're hoping for a three-peat as 2019 and 2020 champions. They know what it's like to win. Talking of winning, my guest this week is Bobby Smyrniotis, the head coach and leader of this franchise as he tries to make it 3 championships in 3 years. It is a fascinating discussion coming up as we talk about leadership, what he loves about the game, his background, how he fell in love with soccer, and of course his connection to many national team players like Richie Laryea and Cyle Larin. Sit back and enjoy what is a great discussion on leadership and football. Delighted to be joined by the man himself, Bobby Smyrniotis. Bobby, we're here in your home. Getting ready for a final this Sunday coming up. You must be excited. Again, another big game. They just keep on coming for you guys.
Yeah, they keep on coming. Like you said, it's a beautiful place to be in here and be here every day. And yeah, excellent season so far. And we're looking forward to what this next week brings.
Yeah, it should be an exciting week. I want to get into your journey here because obviously we've known each other for some time. You know, the Canadian soccer circles can be quite small, right? We'll get all the way up to what is obviously building up to Sunday's final in a minute. But when was your first real soccer memory as a boy?
Ooh. My first soccer memory. You know what, to be honest, 86, Canada World Cup. You know, I still have that VHS tape and I don't remember if I was watching it live at that point, but I remember just keep on watching this tape of the different highlights of 86 and Canada's games, and I'm pretty sure it was Graham Leggett and his voice over it, and you know, that's what it was. It was that energy, and you look at where Canada soccer is right now and Canadian soccer is, and maybe we're on the cusp of something special like that again. So, yeah. 86 is probably those first moments. Massive fan of Michel Platini back then, and then remembering those great games, Socrates of Brazil. So I think that's my biggest memory as a young child.
So how does a 7-year-old boy fall for soccer? Who was your mentor? Greek family, obviously?
Yeah, Greek family. You know, my father came here in 1969, and as with a lot of people, you know, worked his way and worked very hard at doing things. Wasn't the best athlete, but loved the game. You know, got myself and my brother into the game at a very young age. Interesting, you know, upbringing. My father is an Olympiacos fan. My mother is a Panathinaikos fan, and
wow.
The family got split 50-50. So I definitely went with the winning club, Olympiacos. No knock to the other half of my family, but you know, just a genuine love for the sport. You know, through that family, through tradition, through heritage, and then just growing up in the game, just being at the parks down in East York. That's where I grew up in Toronto, and just falling in love with the ball. And I think that's what's stayed with me to this day.
So you fall in love with the ball as a kid. You mentioned Olympiacos. We'll get onto that in a minute because that will be part of your journey as well later on. When did you start to realize that you could make a career out of this, whether it be on or off the pitch?
Yeah, you know, as with every young kid playing the game, you want to be a pro. You always want to find a way to keep on playing this game. But the one thing I knew is I always wanted to be involved in sport. I always wanted to be involved in the sport of soccer in some type of capacity. And, you know, as a young guy, I picked up my suitcases at 16 and went over to Greece and traveled around and to different clubs and so on. And, you know, you just chased the dream. We didn't have the Canadian Premier League back then. You know, we didn't have the opportunities back home. So you had to figure out what the next best thing to do is. And then just, you know, through that whole journey is just loving the tactics of the game. You know, as a player, I think when I played, I read the game very well. And then just, you know, you go through the whole process. You stop playing the game at a young age. I stopped at about 20 with some chronic knee problems. But just a massive passion for the game, for the tactics, for how you get involved into things. And I think coaching was my calling.
Coaching certainly was your calling. You did a great job of it. Who were your inspirations in the professional game the more you got to know it? Obviously, soccer on television now has taken off here in Canada, but over in Greece, like, who were your mentors at that point away from your family?
Yeah, to be honest, in the coaching realm, you know, I didn't know a lot. You know, I was working here. I had actually worked a little bit at York University. I would train my men's team up in Vaughan Soccer Club at that point. But really, my first massive mentor was a gentleman by the name of Sakis Dokas. He was the technical director at Olympiacos when I was over there in 2002 to 2004. And it just so happened that as a young guy he took me under his wing. He was obviously a Greek gentleman, but went through the German School of Education, was a UEFA technical director, And he was just excellent. You know, he got me next to him. He started getting me to translate a lot of things from Greek to English. And before you know it, I'm getting a master's degree in coaching.
Right.
And you always remember your first moments. And I'll always just bring up this small little story. It was my first training session working with the U14s at Olympiacos. And obviously, coming from North America, you know, what do we see in training? Push-ups, sit-ups. So my first training session finishes. He calls me into his office and he says, you know, talk to me about some of the stuff you did in training today. Well, you know, we did different things, and he goes, tell me about the push-ups. And I'm like, oh boy, where's this going? So you learn very quickly what to do and not to do. And,
right.
And the biggest thing, you know, I learned very quickly was the ball. The ball is everything. The ball is everything that you'll need in training to get players to develop, and at the highest level, use the ball. So he was probably the single most massive contribution to what I have and still have today in coaching. Just that thought process of football purism, as I call it.
Yes.
You know, go back to the roots of football, and that will usually be your solution to everything.
Right. What a wonderful story. So 02 to 04, where were you when Greece won the Euros, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, great experience. I was living in Athens. So I moved over to Greece, to Athens in 2002 to pursue a master's degree in sports management. Just so happens I was enrolled to go to the University of Louisville, which is one of the top sports management schools globally. And as I was thinking of heading down to Louisville, Kentucky, they had a program set up with the same professors in Athens, Greece. It was pre-Olympics. And I thought, well, what an experience. What a great opportunity to be over there in a great time before the Olympic Games. Obviously, the Euros came along as well. And that's how I ended up at Olympiacos as well. So, you know, that's how life goes. But during the 2004 game, I was actually embarking on another very important chapter in my life. A good friend of mine who was an agent had wanted to bring Ajax from Holland to do summer camps in Greece. So as I was leaving Olympiacos, he asked me to direct those camps that summer, and that opened up a whole different world. So, you know, it was a great period. You know, you're watching Greek football rise with a fantastic team and everything that was going on. And then personally for myself, I spent 1 month with all the youth directors, coaches of Ajax in Greece. And from there, that opened up a lot of doors for myself in the education realm over in Holland. What
do you remember now the most about what the Dutch taught you?
Football.
Yeah.
Absolute football. I remember watching, I would spend the whole day from watching the reserves, U9s, all the way up to the U18s and the first team. And the one thing that struck me for the first week I was there is nobody was stretching. They walked out there and they just played football. They got into their rondos, they got into their games, everyone was engaged. You were watching 9-year-olds and their position play and their technical ability was something special. And I remember having those conversations around the table with different coaches and, you know, where are your session plans? Where are everything? You know, what's the idea? And everyone said the idea is Ajax. Ajax is an idea. And that's where it clicked to me that the biggest thing in building a club and building an organization is culture.
Right.
Is culture and identity, because the one thing you learn is that's what withstands time. And if you see a club like Ajax, you can go back to the 70s and you can come down to today and they're doing a great job in Champions League. It's pretty much the same. The coaches tinker a little bit, but the coach comes in with a philosophy and the idea of what is Ajax. And I think, you know, that's one of the biggest things I brought back with me as I moved back to Canada and embarked on coaching and building things through Sigma and the academy I was with, and even today here at Forge.
So when you get to Sigma, you start to get some really talented players. Talk to me a little bit what that's like, dealing with the likes, obviously, Cyle Larin, Richie Laryea, obviously Kwame Awu, and many others. And what was it like for you to then become a true leader of men? Because at that point, you're now the one that they're looking forward to making them better.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in the beginning is you took those experiences from overseas of structure, philosophy, culture, and you say, how do you implement them here? Because Canada has always had very good footballers. It's not just this generation that's hopefully going to take us to the World Cup. The players have been there before. I just thought there was never a structure in place to formally develop the players.
Right.
A lot of us, learned to play the game on our own. You know, a great example I have that I was 17 at OFI Crete, and there was a great Dutch coach there, Gene Gerards. And I remember receiving the ball on the right wing with my left foot, and he stopped the whole training session. And he said, son, why are you taking it with your left foot? I had no clue how to answer that question.
Right.
But when you get down to the ideas of position play and all of these things, you know that you always take that ball with a certain foot in a certain way. And you bring that back here and you start getting these very good young players in Richie Laryea, Cyle Larin, Nanco, Kwame Awua, Kyle Bekker. And you start seeing all this natural talent and you say, we have to work in a specific way and play the long game. So when you see these players at 11 and 12 years old, don't get excited at their talent, but work with it, cultivate it. Make sure that it's there for the long term of the game. And I think that's the biggest shift that we're starting to see, I think, in the Canadian circles is we're understanding that it's the long game. Because the toughest thing for a coach in the development of a player is not to be fooled by the talent of the player he has in front of him.
Right.
Because that can always just look good. You can have 11 very good youth soccer players that win games and you think everything is going good. But are you working on the nuances of that player to play at the next level? And I think those are the little things that I always stressed as much as I could, with all of the staff, but with all the players as well. Keeping them humble, keeping them to the ground, and making sure that they're working to strive towards their goals and not letting the first goal define them. Right. Cyle Larin not being the first pick overall in the MLS draft. It's what I told them, congratulations, today somebody signed you on your potential. You'll be a pro when somebody gives you a second contract.
Right.
And that's how it is. You just got to keep on going.
You talk about the little things, the nuances there, whether it was Forge, whether it's now here, when it was with Sigma. How much is the off the field stuff important, Bobby? Because obviously these players are looking for you to make them better on it, but you've got to cultivate that culture of relationships, know that you care, that you're there for them. How much is that something that you've worked on during this time as being a leader?
Yeah, I think it was massive. You're always there for the guys and what they needed in their football life, but also personally. And that still remains today with a lot of the players. My line is open to them, whether they're playing for me here or whether they're Cyle Larin, Richie Laryea, Manjikar James. Yep. All of these guys, have an open line to me if there's something we want to discuss about a game or some things that are going on. And I think that's important because we all need mentors. We all need people who are going to give us the advice. And the one thing I think the players have understood with me is I'm always going to be real. I'm always going to be honest in the good and the bad. And that's the one thing I think I've given to the players over time. And most importantly, just remain humble and work at it, because I think out of your hard work always comes success.
So when you talk about success, 2019 champs, 2020 champs, you're going for three-peat this Sunday. What are you proud of the most when you look back at what you've accomplished and what you want to continue here at Forge?
I think the biggest thing that we're proud of is what we've created, an identity of a club. I've not only within the Canadian landscape and the CONCACAF landscape, I think, do people know when you see Forge, you know what you're going to see. You have that idea of what type of footballers you're going to see, what type of style of play, what principles you're going to see out there. I think that's very important. Because the one thing in sport is I may be here for 5 years, 10 years, 20, or I may be here for the next 6 months. What I want is the identity of this club to move forward. And I think that's the biggest thing we've tried to build from day one. And if you do that well, I always think success comes. Whether that comes early, in our case it has, and we're obviously happy for that. But you want to make sure that you have that longevity. We've talked about Ajax and a model club of sustainable in the ideas of an organization. It's one thing I want to be able to see here, having the opportunity, which is very rare, to build a club from the beginning and be able to put all those experiences that I've had in the past into what we have in the present and hopefully in the future.
You mentioned Ajax. Ajax have an identity that they know they can sell on players. What I like about the Canadian Premier League is they never hide away from that, right? If a player's good enough, move on, right? Come in, work it. What about you, Bobby? What does it mean with you? Because obviously this is not going to be your peak. You've got other things you can do. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but I know you were close last year to the CF Montreal job and they're very, very interested in watching you. What do you see yourself going forward and how are you a better coach now than you have been 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think in the global food chain, there's always something higher. So I think in order to push yourself every day, you have to have ambition. That ambition will drive you in your everyday work that you have here and whatever the future brings. In any situation, you always have to look at that in the right moment, in the right place, to be able to look at the success that you've had here as a coach and what has driven that, and can that success happen somewhere else based on a lot of those same principles. And I think that's very important for it. And just, where have I changed since maybe 2019? I've had to win. As a person who was a developer before strictly in developing, it never bothered me to win a game. It bothered me at the end how many players we had moved on to the different levels of the game. That was our trophy. That was the single most important thing to us. Did you want to win in League One Ontario? Of course you did, but that wasn't the mandate. Coming into the pro game, it was about finding the right balance, because you have to develop. In this league and in many leagues, you still have to develop. The food chain goes to whoever we're going to pick, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern, whichever one of the Manchesters. So you're always in the world of developing, but you can't also go all the way to the ideas, I must win. You have to find the balance between the two, and I think that's what I've learned to do in these years with the club, is finding the right balance of making sure that we have an environment that makes players better, and by that, we have a team that plays good football, and hopefully that brings the results.
And it has brought the results so far. What's that feeling like for you? Can you enjoy wins? Because I know they always say you're on to the next thing right away, right? But when that trophy goes up, when Cyle Bekker lifts that shield like he's done twice, and you hope that he does this Sunday, what's that feeling like for you?
It's an excellent feeling. It's an excellent feeling. Sometimes I say, and it's hard, it's not so much the personal feeling, it's the feeling that when I look around. And I look around and I see 30 people in our little small knit community of players and staff, and just seeing the work that we put in. And saying in the beginning of the year, here's where we want to be, here's how we want to do it, here's how we want to do it football-wise, and then to be able to have done it, that's the thing I'm most proud about. And then you start saying to yourself 5 minutes later, oh boy, we got to do this again. It's they say, repeating a championship is a tough thing.
Right.
Doing it 3 times, I don't know. They say sometimes it's the impossible, but here we are. Here we are in a season where we've been hit with a lot of challenges, a tough preseason of stop and go and different things. Starting the season off in a bubble, which we theoretically used as a preseason, and coming out of that to where we are now. 38 games and counting, CONCACAF semifinals. Which is a tournament which is massive for us. It's massive in building that future culture for us, not only just here locally in our community, but in the CONCACAF region, and what that means in the future for scouting players and maybe bringing in some foreign players. So I think if you look at the season and it stops today, it's a massive success. Everything that we bring on top of this will just make it a little bit better.
Do you allow yourself to switch off, like over the holidays? Can you get away from the game a little bit? Does the game kind of just consume you and you love it?
It's tough. I have 2 modes, and a lot of the staff knows this about me. It's football, and then family and my kids.
Right.
And those are the 2 things. But as they're getting older, it's football for them, and it's questions about Forge and what are we going to do next, and what are the tactics, and it's absolutely brilliant at home. You try and switch off for a bit, but I can tell you, when you have the passion and the bug in you, it's not easy. You're always involved in something. You want to see what's next. You also want to see how you make yourself better, to make this team better, and that's been important for me in each off season. Being able to talk more with technical leaders around that are in my circle, visit different clubs, and just get ideas and mostly have discussions, because I think football discussions are the most important thing to create that environment of re-educating.
And as we wrap up, it's a good time to be football. Now, at the end of 2021, what a year it's been for Canadian soccer. Obviously, the gold medal for the girls in Tokyo, the men, the boys going out there winning games in the World Cup qualifying. I mean, it's just an unprecedented time, right, for guys who've loved the sport like us.
Absolutely brilliant. A lot of people ask me, Coach or Bobby, did you ever see this? I said, of course I saw this. This is why, I got involved 17 years ago, whenever it was, because I believe in the Canadian player. I believe that we've got the talent in this country to hit the highest levels, to play at the biggest clubs, and I think this is only the beginning. We now have a professional league in this country, and that's only going to grow. We have a national team who has become now a massive group in CONCACAF, which, if we talked 3 years ago, people are asking questions, is that possible? We have a crop of players right now that's going to be around for the next 10 years, and I think those more players will keep on coming through the system. So it's a fantastic time to be part of Canadian soccer. It
certainly is, and this has been a fantastic chat. I can't say how much I've enjoyed it, and always listening to you, and you're an absolute inspiration. So we're grateful that you're here in this league. I know it won't always be the case, and I wish you nothing but the success going forward, and for a 3-peat as well this Sunday. Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.